Hi, if you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I am a gut health nutrition coach. I help people to overcome their chronic gut and digestive issues using the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as some other holistic health practices. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome chronic yeast infections, chronic Candida overgrowth, how to overcome this naturally and permanently. So if you have tried a bunch of things already, or if you haven't tried anything yet, and you're just really frustrated at overcoming your yeast infection, or if you're having thrush or any kind of other Candida rooted problem, then this video is definitely for you. Before we get too far into the video, I do want to let you know that I have a couple of spots open in my program, Ancestral Gut Healing, right now. So if you are interested in healing your gut issues at the root, getting very, very clear on what the root causes of your gut issues are, and then just having a step-by-step plan that lays out exactly how to overcome your issues at the root, how to nail down a gut healing diet, and how to fix these permanently, how to just get guidance along the way. If you're interested in that, stick around till the end of the video and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But back to the topic for today. So let's see, a few things I'm going to cover is what causes Candida overgrowth, and then ultimately yeast infections, thrush, or other Candida problems as well. I'm going to talk about the signs and symptoms of this. I'm also going to be talking about preventative measures you can take to avoid them in the future, and these will also help you to heal. But then I'm going to be talking about these main cures that actually work. So a little bit of background about myself and my experience working with Candida and yeast infections and this sort of stuff. So basically my first experience was when I had yeast infections. I had it ongoing for about 6 months, and this was quite a few years ago. This was about 4.5, 5 years ago now. And basically I did what most people do and look up some things, ask family members what to do, and I tried the monostat over-the-counter medicine. I went to the doctor and I got the antibiotics. Technically antibiotics they usually prescribe for bacterial vaginosis, which is very similar to a yeast infection. You can have both at the same time. That's what I had. So I tried that back before I knew the harms of antibiotics and how this could actually make it worse, which it did make it worse for me. I'll get into that more later. But basically, I tried a bunch of different things. I was looking stuff up online. I was like, okay, I have to drink cranberry juice and I have to eat raw garlic. And I remember like being in the car, just having gone to the grocery store, like eating a clove of raw garlic. Like, this will fix it, I think. That didn't fix it, by the way. But anyway, I was there. I was trying all the stuff. They just kept coming back. It was really frustrating. Eventually, I came across the thing that actually worked. Actually, I asked a friend and she told me about it. And anyway, I'll be getting to that later in the video, but I just wanted to share that I've struggled with this too. I know how itchy and uncomfortable and frustrating it is. And then I've also had a lot of friends go through this too. So once I figured out what worked for me, I shared it with my friends and it really helped them as well. They had gone through the same kind of thing, trying a bunch of things, having it not work, trying like oregano oil and all these different things. And when I shared the thing that worked for me, it healed them as well. I've also helped clients with that. I have a few clients currently that are dealing with yeast infections that I just gave the same protocol that I'm going to share with you today as well. So with that said, I want to get into what are the main signs and symptoms of a yeast infection. So how do you know if you even have one? So basically the main sign is very, very itchy, having very itchy feelings down there. Also, you typically get more redness as well. And then it's very common to get this like cottage cheese type discharge. I'll let you think about what that looks like without describing it too much more. And there's often a kind of stinky smell. So you'll smell like a little bit off, a little bit different than normal. Let's see, what else do I have here? It's also normal to get a little bit more tight down there because of the irritation as well. So that's for vaginal yeast infections, but you can also get yeast in lots of other areas like in your mouth. That's going to be called thrush. So with that, you know, you get itchiness in your mouth, you get some redness, you can get like white spots. Yeast tends to be white, like a little bit yellowish, so you can kind of get that spotting in your mouth and it's itchy. So that's what it's going to look like there. You can also get it in your GI tract as well, which it's a little bit harder to tell when you have this. But yeah, also men can get it as well. So they can get it down there as well. And that's going to be itchiness, redness, irritation. It's going to be kind of similar, but basically on a man instead of a woman. And, you know, there's a few things they won't get that we will. Essentially, that's kind of the gist of it. You can get it in other areas. Usually it's going to be like damp areas or areas that can be damp. So like your armpit is an area you can get it. It's a little bit strange. You can get it in random places, but I'm primarily going to be talking about vaginal yeast infections in this video, but everything will also give you tips for the other ones as well. So anyway, those are the main signs. I also want to note that I have a few videos coming up after this one where I'm going to talk more about hormonal health. I'm also going to be doing a training about tracking your cycle and things like that. So I will be getting into this more in the future, but I want to mention for women, we naturally have cervical fluid that builds up close to our cycle. And it's very normal to have some discharge. So all discharge is not yeast infection. So make sure you make that distinguishment. If you're just having discharge, particularly around ovulation, so roughly 10, 14, 16-ish days after the start of your cycle, everyone's a little different. If you're having discharge around that time, it's probably just your cervical fluid. The key distinction is going to be yeast infection discharge is very smelly and kind of clumpy. So there'll be like little white clumps in there. So that's going to be the main distinguisher. And with the yeast infection, you are clearly like red and itchy, which you are not in a normal cycle. So yeah, I just wanted to make that distinguishment. So then let's see. Okay, so what causes yeast infections and Candida overgrowth? So what causes the Candida to overgrow is typically some form of dysbiosis, which basically means the microbiome is off balance. So there's not enough diversity in your microbiome, like not enough variation. So it has this opening for things to overgrow. So you don't have enough of all these good bacteria and microbes, basically, so ones that you don't want to overgrow start to overgrow. So Candida is one of those. Everybody has some Candida in their gut. Everybody has some Candida in their vaginal flora if you're a woman. It is a normal occurring thing. The problem is when it overgrows. So anything that's going to cause gut dysbiosis, which I talk about a lot, can cause a yeast infection. So antibiotics, they are wiping out a lot of your microbiome, therefore leaving this opportunity for something to overgrow. Sometimes it's Candida. I'll talk a little bit more about what can push it to be Candida, but know that things like antibiotics, like hand sanitizers, antibacterial soaps, like disinfectants, all of those can potentially lead to yeast infections. It's very, very common for women to get yeast infections after taking antibiotics. So obviously sometimes you need them. If you just had like open heart surgery or something, yes, by all means go for antibiotics. Like I would too. But when we can avoid them, it's best to avoid them. So if you have a yeast infection, if you have bacterial vaginosis and you're considering antibiotics, I would highly encourage you not to go that route. I went that route. It did not work. It made it way worse. I will give you things to do instead that will work better. So that's one thing that can cause it. Your diet affects it. So if you are eating lots and lots of sugar or things that break down to sugar or alcohol, this is kind of something that pushes dysbiosis to turn into Candida overgrowth. So Candida loves sugar. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, if you're eating a lot of refined carbs that break down to sugar quickly, so a lot of like white flour, for example, or even like tons and tons of fruit, even though fruit's super healthy, you can still have some, but if you're eating like tons of it, it might not be the best when you're dealing with Candida overgrowth. So basically, if you're eating a lot of sugars and alcohols, that can lead to it. Alcohol can also mess up your gut microbiome, so that can lead to it in another way. Then let's see what else. So more specifically to vaginal yeast infections, low pH can lead to yeast infections as well. So basically, women have a very strong acidic environment down there, because basically there's a hole opening into our body, and we have to make sure that microbes and things we don't want don't come in. So basically, a line of defense is very strong acidic environment to kill off a lot of things. There are a few things that can cause the acidity to go down and to become slightly more alkaline. And this basically creates a habitat where Candida can overgrow easier. So a few of those things are water. So if you are like a swimmer, or you like to swim a lot and you're staying in a wet swimsuit for a while afterwards, that can be a contributor. If you're an athlete who sweats a lot and doesn't change out of their clothes like right away or very soon, that can be another contributor. Your period blood can also kind of decrease the acidity slightly. So sometimes you'll notice that you're more susceptible to yeast infections when you're on your period. Also semen can. So sometimes having sex can impact yeast infections and make it a little bit more likely. Yeah, it's just more of like when you're sensitive, that can kind of push you over the edge. Obviously, it's fine in the long term. So those are kind of the main things. It's going to be some form of dysbiosis, and oftentimes if it's a vaginal yeast infection, then you're going to be having some sort of pH disruption down there. But there are other things that can kind of make you more susceptible. So those are, like I mentioned, a diet high in sugar and alcohol. Also, any kind of like friction in that area can also kind of damage it and lead to yeast infections. Washing with soap can as well. We basically clean out pretty well on our own, and soap can disrupt our microbiome, and it can disrupt the acidity as well. So it can kind of interfere and do more harm than good. Then not changing your underwear regularly can also lead to yeast infections. Also, not having a breathable natural material as well. So we really want to have cotton or another natural material like hemp or bamboo can be good as well, but cotton's kind of like the best go-to, especially if you can get organic cotton. That's the best. And same thing for men too, especially if you're struggling with this. Good organic cotton underwear or some kind of natural material is so important. Polyester underwear has been linked to like decreased sperm counts. It interferes with your hormones. It's really bad for you. So get a good pair, or a lot of good pairs. And then let's see. Okay, so stress is another one. Really, really common. People that are prone to yeast infections that get them over and over again, they often get triggered by stress. Stress can interfere with our microbiome. It does so many different things. And our microbiome, we have kind of everywhere. We usually think of our gut microbiome, which affects a lot of the other microbiomes, but we have a vaginal microbiome. We have eye microbiomes. We have armpit microbiomes. We have them everywhere. So know that stress can negatively impact this as well. And I also already mentioned that antibiotic use also can negatively affect this. So that's like the main causes. As far as like thrush yeast infections in your mouth, it's going to be kind of similar. So basically, poor diet is going to affect this, and anything that's going to negatively impact your microbiome. Think about it, what you eat is going through your mouth, so it's affecting what's in your mouth. If you eat a lot of sugar, that's going to be bad. If you use a lot of like antibacterial kind of mouthwashes and things like that, that can lead to dysbiosis in your mouth. So you really want to take care of like your mouth health in that way, if that makes sense. And then if you're a man and you have a yeast infection down there, then it's going to be kind of similar things, a little bit different than women. But basically think about those microbiome things, think about your diet. Those are going to be the main causes, and I'll get into more about what you can do about it pretty soon. So let's see, what did I want to touch on next? Okay, so preventative measures are basically going to be to do the opposite of all the things I just said that make you more prone to getting a yeast infection. But I also wanted to just kind of add a little bit more. So you don't want to stay in like damp or wet clothes for long. or if you just sweated a lot, basically it's a good idea to take a shower and to change into clean underwear after. This is something that, you know, you don't have to be super, super picky on for the long run, but just when you're really prone to these yeast infections, it's a really good idea to just kind of be on that. It just helps you heal faster. It's not the thing that's going to make you fully heal, but it will aid. It's good to do a combination of things, and this is one of those things that will help. So then, let's see, change underwear daily, like I mentioned before, I believe. Wear cotton or other breathable underwear. And then also, this one can be hard for some people, but it's important to not have sex while you are having a yeast infection, because basically you can spread it to your partner and back and forth. So that can just prolong it and make it even harder. So yeah, whether you're a man or a woman, if it's your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, it's a good idea to wait until you are healed so you don't pass that back and forth a bunch. Okay. So then the part that you're probably most excited for, how do you actually fix this? So the number one most effective thing I have found is boric acid. So what this is, it is, you get boric acid and you put it in these little capsules, or you can buy it already in the capsules. So that's like you can get the vegetable capsules, or you can get the gelatin capsules. I would go for gelatin personally. They're a little healthier, but either one is okay. And basically you can buy them, it's the 0.0 size typically, already full of boric acid, or you can buy the boric acid and the little pills and you can make them yourself. So if you make them yourself, make sure you're wearing gloves when you do, because boric acid can burn our skin. But the thing is, it's okay to put in your vagina because it's very acidic in there, so it won't burn that. So it'll be fine there. It's just we don't want to touch it on the outside. So essentially you take these and you put one in at night right before you go to bed. And let's see. So what else did I want to say? So basically what this will do is it's an acidic substance, so it helps to restore the acidity. And then it also helps to kill off some of that excess Candida that has overgrown. So you want to do it right before bed, because if it drips down, it can burn if it gets on the outside, and it typically does get a little drippy. So you usually want to wear like a little panty liner or pad when you do go to bed and do this. But yeah, so you just put one in at night and you do this for about 2 weeks. I would say you can do it for 1, but you probably want to do it for 2 weeks, especially if this has been like a reoccurring thing. And then you just use them as needed. So you want to do that initial stretch to just really kill it off and get that acidity back. Then I would do it as needed. So whenever you feel it coming on, you can just do this for a couple days. You can do it for 2 days. You can do it for 1 day. Basically, I would just kind of tune into your body and see what you need. So essentially what this looked like for me was I did like, I don't remember the exacts, but basically I did like a 2-week stretch, maybe even 3 weeks. And then I noticed I was better, so I eased off. And then when it would kind of come back, I would do it for a few days and then ease off. And essentially, over the course of a few months, it got to every once in a while, I needed 1 or 2 for a night or 2 nights in a row. And then I would be fine. And eventually, I just didn't need them at all. And this is the same thing that my friends who have dealt with this have done as well. So pretty much, yeah, that's kind of what you do. It's really good to just kind of listen to your body and see what you need. This is very effective. I do recommend you pair it with a few other things that I'm going to get into in a second. But I also just want to mention that this is the thing that for myself, for my friends, we've tried so many different things, and then try this and then it's gone. And it actually works and it's gone for good, and it's so helpful. And if you don't believe me on that, go read the reviews online of some of these companies that sell the boric acid suppositories. And this is what sold me on it to try it. It is like hundreds and hundreds of review after review of nothing was working. I tried this and it finally worked. So I would really, I just really recommend that. I mean, of course, do your own research, figure out what you feel comfortable with, but this is a very effective method. So that's good at killing off excess Candida. It's good at restoring the pH, but I like a little bit more well-rounded of an approach. So there are a few other things I recommend you do as well. So the next one is coconut oil. So coconut oil also has some antimicrobial properties, but it's also just really, really soothing. especially to like itching and red and damaged areas. It's good for lots of things, but coconut oil is really helpful. So I would recommend putting that on just as often as feels comfortable. This might be more like 2 to 4 times a day for the first like 5 days or so, and then you might kind of decrease to 1 or 2, but there's no real right amount. It's just whenever you feel like you need it, whenever it's soothing, you can put that on. You can put that inside as well, and it's very soothing. Men, if you're dealing with yeast infections, thrush as well, you can do that too. And also if you have thrush, so if you have like in your mouth, you can oil pool. So basically you take coconut oil, you can do it with other oils, like I've done olive oil before as well, and you take a tablespoon and you swish it around in your mouth for 20 minutes and your jaws will get a little sore, but this is very good for the microbiome in your mouth, and it's also good for your teeth. It helps to whiten your teeth. It just helps to make them healthier. This is a Ayurvedic practice actually, so you can look up oil pooling if you are dealing with the thrush, the in the mouth version of Candida overgrowth. That can be really helpful as well, and also soothing. So then the next thing I have is yogurt, and there are a few different things you can do with yogurt. So you can eat it. That's one thing that's going to be great. It's going to give you lots of probiotics to help you to rebuild all of your microbiomes, really. You can also apply it directly on the area, whatever that is, your mouth, wherever you're having your yeast infection, you can put yogurt directly on. If you're a woman, you can put it inside as well. And this will basically just introduce good bacteria to help repopulate the microbiome with lots of good guys, so that there's no room for all that excess Candida. And basically the good guys will help keep it in balance. It's also very soothing because it's cooling as well. So that's another option you can do. You can kind of alternate this with the coconut oil, see what feels better. I'm a big believer in your body will tell you what's working for you. I don't think that things should hurt a bunch, and I don't think that hurting means it's working for most of the time, most things. So if you put coconut oil on and it feels great, good, that's awesome. If it doesn't feel right for you for some reason, take it off. Like maybe it's not the right fit for you, same thing with the yogurt. Really listen to your body. But yeah, eating tons of yogurt is always really good. So then, so the next thing I have is your diet, of course, because I'm always talking about your diet. But basically you want to have no sugar, no alcohol, no refined carbs, no bread. That wraps it up pretty well. You don't want to have any of those while you are having a yeast infection, and then you want to wait till it's gone for at least 2 weeks before introducing any of those, and don't go hog wild and just introduce them all back, or you'll probably get another yeast infection. So I would say wait a bare minimum of 2 weeks to introduce anything, and then when you do introduce it, go very slowly, especially with the sugar and the alcohol. If you like to have like sourdough bread or something that's like something you can bring back earlier, that'll be okay, especially because it has the fermented element. But don't eat like a cake and drink wine like right after it, or it's going to come back. An ancestral type diet, like I'm always talking about, nose to tail animal foods, fermented foods, properly prepared, nut seeds, grains, legumes, cooked veggies, lots of fruit. You can ease back a little bit on the fruit right now just because it does break down to sugar. It's different in our bodies, but the yeast can still kind of grow on it. So we don't want to go too overboard with the fruit right now. But just an ancestral type diet that I'm always recommending is great for this as well. And have lots and lots of fermented foods. As much yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented veggies, anything like that you want, go for it. Have as much as you want. That will help you heal. All your microbiomes are connected, so it doesn't matter what form of Candida overgrowth you have, fermented foods will help. Another note on this, there is an exception. Don't go for kombucha. This is a common mistake because it has a lot of sugar in it. So, if you want to have kombucha, sometimes that's fine, but not while you have a yeast infection or Candida overgrowth. It's really just going to fuel it more. It's not going to help overcome it. The sugar is just kind of gonna outweigh the effects of the fermented aspect of kombucha. Go for fermented foods that don't have the sugar too. All All right, so just to kind of recap, if you have a yeast infection now, what I would recommend is that you get the boric acid suppositories and you do that one time each night for about 2 weeks. Listen to your body. It could be only 1 week, it could be 3 weeks. Really listen to your body. And then after that time where you feel like you've killed it off, just be aware. And if you start to feel the itching feeling, if you start to feel it coming back, just do one again that night. And then, you know, maybe do the next night too, and then wait. And then if you feel it again, you know, you can do it for a night. Just kind of get intuitive and try to pick up on it earlier, and just do 1 night, 2 nights, whatever you feel like is best until you're not having it at all anymore. Then do the coconut oil, you know, a few times a day, whatever's comfortable for you, for as long as that's helping. So basically, when you're most irritated, just use that. That can be helpful. And then, let's see. So the boric acid also, that's only for vaginal yeast infections. It's toxic to eat or poisonous to eat. So we do not want to eat it. It does not help with thrush in the mouth, and it doesn't help for men either. So this is only for women with vaginal yeast infections. It does not work for other kinds. But the coconut oil can be used for any kind, and it can be used for oil pooling if you have a yeast infection in your mouth. And then don't consume sugar, alcohol, or let's see, what else did I say? Refined carbs, bread, until you have not had a yeast infection for at least 2 weeks, and then still be kind of wary about introducing it. Eventually it's fine to eat those kinds of things in moderation, but not while you're having a yeast infection. So then also just keep really good hygiene. So shower regularly, especially after sweating. Change out of wet or damp clothes quickly. Change your underwear every day. Make sure it's good organic cotton or something like that. Wait to have sex until you're fully healed. And then, let's see. Also note that yeast infections are pretty notorious for reoccurring. So just be really in tune with your body and see if something is starting to flare up again, if you're noticing these symptoms again. And yeah, just be on it and make sure you get back to these habits that I talked about, especially that boric acid and really fermented foods and avoiding sugar. This is what will help you. Yeah, and that's what will help you in the long run. Yeah. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a couple of spots open in my program right now. So basically my program, Ancestral Gut Healing, is designed to help you get to the root cause of your gut issues. So like today I was talking about yeast infections. This is a common gut issue. Also, you know, it's not always super directly connected to your gut. You know, a vaginal yeast infection is a little bit, but still, this is something that I talk about in my course. This is something that I help people with. Basically, I go over the root causes, like I did today, of so many other issues. So if you're struggling with constipation, diarrhea, bloating, gas, skin issues, hormonal issues, anything connected to the gut like that, I go over what's causing it with you, and we map out a strategy for you to overcome it from the root. And I'm just there to support you along the way. We really narrow down your diet so you're nourishing your body, you're healing your gut, you're strengthening your digestive system, you're reaching your health goals, you're just really optimizing your health for the future. So yeah, basically you get to learn what's causing your issues, you learn how to overcome them, and you get support along the whole process so that you can fully overcome those annoying gut and digestive issues. So if it's something you're interested in and you want to learn a little bit more about what I offer, I do offer a free discovery call where we get to talk about your issues, what's going on. You can share what you've struggled with, what you've tried, all those kinds of things. I can give you a little insight, and then I tell you about my program, what's included in it. Yeah, and I answer any questions that you have, and basically it's a call to see if we're a good fit to work together. So if it's something you're interested in, you just want to learn more about it, you know, there's no commitment, it's just learning more about it and seeing if it's a good option. So I will link to book a call with me below if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, thank you for sticking around to the end. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, if you could like, subscribe, comment, anything like that helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. I love reading all your guys' comments. Yeah, or if you know anyone who's struggling with a yeast infection and could benefit from this video, you can go ahead and share it with them. Yeah, and anyway, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.